The first thing Erin noticed stepping off the bush plane was the cold. Not the sharp, biting kind she remembered from winters as a child, but a deeper cold, dense, heavy, pressing into her skin as if the air itself wanted to slow her down. Her breath hung thick in front of her face, drifting like pale smoke over the frozen runway. Narlock Bay looked exactly as it had in her memory, only older and wearier. A thin row of houses on stilts faced the ice-locked shore, paint peeling and would darkened from years of storms. Fishing nets hung stiff as boards on weathered racks. The bay itself stretched beyond the dock in a vast white sheet, broken here and there by ridges where the ice had buckled. Above it all, the winter sun hovered low and dim, like a weak light bulb behind thick glass. Her father, Hal, stood at the edge of the landing strip in a patched navy parka, shoulders hunched against the wind. His face was thinner, his hair more gray than brown now, but when he smiled it was the same warm crinkle around the eyes she remembered. "You look good, kid," he said, pulling her into a hug. The scent of salt and wood smoke clung to him. His frame felt lighter than she expected, fragile almost, and the embrace ended with a cough that rattled deep in his chest. "You should have told me it was getting this bad," she said. "I'm fine," he waved her off. "Place hasn't changed much. Winters feel meaner now, though. That's all." The truck ride home took less than 5 minutes. Everything in Narlock Bay was close. She could see frost clinging to the power lines, the sky streaked with faint pink from the setting sun even though it was barely past 3. That night, in her old bedroom, walls still lined with faded maps of fishing routes and old Polaroids of big catches, Erin lay awake, staring at the dark. The quiet here was thick, the kind that made you hear your own pulse. She'd almost drifted off when she caught it, a low, resonant hum. It was faint, but steady, as though the sound was traveling up through the earth beneath her. She sat up, straining to listen. It wasn't a motor. Not wind, either. The tone rose and fell in long, slow waves, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried miles under the ice. Curiosity got the better of her. She padded to the window and cracked it open. The cold poured in instantly, biting her cheeks, but the sound was clearer now, deep and distant, pulsing from the direction of the bay. For a few seconds, she thought she could almost feel it in her ribs. She closed the window quickly and told herself it was just shifting ice. The next morning, she found Hal in the kitchen making coffee. "Did you hear that last night?" she asked. He didn't look up. "Hear what?" "That a hum, like from the bay." "Just the ice talking," he said after a pause. "It does that sometimes." Later, down at the dock, Erin noticed a small group of fishermen standing in a tight knot, their voices low. The air smelled faintly of diesel and salt. She walked over, catching the tail end of a sentence. "Last place Jonah was seen." Her stomach tightened. "Jonah! You remember him. Used to work with your dad. Went out late last night to check crab pots. Didn't come back." The man speaking was Tomas, an older fisherman with windburned skin. His eyes were fixed on the ice. Erin glanced out and saw it, a rough hole smashed into the frozen surface far from shore, surrounded by jagged cracks. No sled, no gear, no sign of Jonah. Tomas spat into the snow. "It's starting again." She frowned. "What is?" "Ice is singing," he said. "Means trouble. Keep your windows shut at night. And don't go near the hum." By the end of the week, Jonah was still missing. His snowmobile had been found 2 days later, idling on a stretch of ice 6 miles from shore, half buried in wind-blown snow. No one could explain how it got there, or why there were no tracks leading away from it. Jonah's mother sat in her kitchen, the blinds open despite the bitter cold, staring out toward the bay as if expecting her son to step off the ice at any moment. When Erin dropped by with food, the woman barely seemed to notice. That night, the hum came again. Louder. It didn't just seem to be under the bay anymore. It pressed through the ground into the walls, the floorboards, her bones. It was strangely ordered, not random noise. She lay in bed, heart racing, wondering if it was some kind of underwater drilling. But there were no rigs out here. Nothing but ice and water for miles. The next morning over breakfast, she brought it up again with Hal. "You remember Tomas at the dock?" she asked. Hal grunted. "He said it's starting again." What did he mean? Her father's spoon hovered over his oatmeal. "Old story," he muttered. "Says there's something under the ice. Some say it's an animal. Some say it's older than people. The hum is it calling. First you hear it. Then you see lights moving under the surface. Then you're gone. Happens every few years. Always someone alone. Never find a body." Erin gave him a skeptical look. "And you believe that?" "I believe in people freezing to death because they went looking for what they shouldn't," he said sharply. "That's enough." She tried to laugh it off, but couldn't shake the unease. The village seemed tense. People avoided the bay after dark. The fishermen went out in pairs now, no one willing to be alone on the ice. 3 days later, it happened again. This time it was Claire Anders, a middle-aged woman who ran the small store near the dock. She'd gone ice fishing that afternoon. By evening, her shack was found abandoned. The stove was still burning, the hole in the ice jagged and far larger than any normal fishing cut. No sign of her, just the dark water beneath. The search was short. No one wanted to linger out there. That night, Erin couldn't sleep. The hum was constant now, not just at midnight. It was louder when the wind died, so clear that she thought she could almost make out words hidden inside it. Indistinct syllables, drawn out and slow, like a language she didn't know but somehow felt she should understand. She got up and went to the window. At first, she saw nothing but the snow-swept expanse. Then she saw it, far out on the bay, a faint bluish glow pulsing beneath the ice. It shifted in time with the hum, almost as if the light itself was breathing. Her mouth went dry. She wanted to wake her father, but couldn't bring herself to speak. She stayed at the window far too long, her eyes locked on that slow, hypnotic rhythm. Then something changed. The glow brightened for a heartbeat, and she thought she saw a shape moving in it. Not swimming. Sliding. Large. She stumbled back from the window, heart hammering, and pulled the curtain shut. She told herself it was plankton, trapped under the ice. Or maybe a trick of moonlight. She told herself a lot of things. None of them felt true. The next morning, Erin resolved to ignore the whole thing. She'd focus on taking care of Hal, help with errands, maybe even catch up with a few old friends. Pretend Narlock Bay was just another cold, sleepy town. That plan lasted until she overheard 2 fishermen at the store. "Saw the light last night, same as before. But closer this time," one whispered. "You didn't follow it, did you?" the other asked, his voice tight. "Hell no. Not stupid enough to end up like Jonah and Claire." Erin walked past them, pretending not to listen, but their words clung to her thoughts like frost. By late afternoon, she found herself heading toward the dock. Hal was napping. She left a note. The air was brutally still, the kind of cold that burns your nostrils. Out on the bay, the light snow cover had been swept into ripples by wind, exposing slick patches of glassy ice. She could see the faint, jagged hole where Jonah had disappeared, now frozen over in uneven ridges. She crouched, resting her gloved palm on the surface. The hum was there, subtle but steady, vibrating faintly through the ice into her skin. Her stomach knotted. Without really thinking, she followed the sound, stepping carefully toward the center of the bay. The ice popped and groaned beneath her boots. Normal sounds, she told herself, just shifting layers. But the hum grew stronger, more insistent. Then she saw it, far ahead, a faint blur of bluish light. It wasn't strong enough to illuminate the ice above it, but enough to leave a ghostly stain in the frozen surface. She moved closer, drawn despite herself. When she was 20 yards away, the light brightened slightly, and moved, not in a drifting, natural way, but in a smooth, deliberate arc. She froze. Her breath fogged the air in fast bursts. Something about its movement felt aware. The hum swelled. She thought she heard it take on a strange cadence, like a chant. Her knees wobbled, a sudden dizziness washing over her. She staggered back a step. Then the ice beneath her gave a sharp, unnatural crack. Erin dropped to her knees instinctively, spreading her weight, heart slamming in her chest. The light paused directly beneath her, its glow intensifying. For one impossible moment, she thought she saw a silhouette inside it, tall, elongated, moving slowly upward. A deep, muffled thud vibrated through the ice, and the crack beneath her widened by an inch. She scrambled backward, crawling on hands and knees until she reached thicker ice. Only when she was near the dock did she dare stand. The light was gone. The hum faded to its usual low throb, as if nothing had happened. By the time she got home, Hal was awake and furious. "You don't go out there alone," he snapped. "Not now. Not when it's singing." "It's not just ice," Erin blurted. "There's something moving under there." Hal's face hardened, his voice low. "I know. I've seen it before. The year before you left, it took a boy named Micah. And before that, my brother." Erin stared at him. "And you stayed here?" His eyes flicked toward the window, toward the bay. "Some of us don't get to leave." That night, Erin dreamt of the glow under the ice, but in the dream it wasn't cold. It was warm, beckoning, and she felt herself moving toward it, not away. 2 nights later, the storm came in. Heavy snow and brutal wind pounded the village, rattling windows and howling through the eaves. Erin sat by the stove, trying to read, but every few minutes her eyes drifted to the window. The hum was louder now, so loud she didn't need to press her ear to the wall to hear it. It was inside the house, inside her chest. Hal sat across from her, pretending to work on a crossword, but his hands were trembling. "It's closer," he said finally. "I can feel it." "What is it?" she asked. "Really?" Hal didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Some say it's just the sea shifting under the ice. Some say it's something that's always been here, older than the water, older than us. It calls when it's hungry." Erin swallowed. "And if you hear it, you stay inside. You wait for it to pass." But by midnight, she knew she wouldn't. The hum had changed, become melodic, almost gentle, coaxing rather than warning. It tugged at something deep in her, a pull that felt both alien and familiar. She slipped on her parka and boots while Hal dozed in his chair. She told herself she was only going to the dock, just to look, just to prove to herself it was nothing. Outside, the storm had eased. The air was still, the snow soft under her boots. The bay stretched ahead, a white plain under a sky that glowed faintly with moonlight behind the clouds. And there it was, the glow, closer than before, only a few hundred yards out. It pulsed in time with the hum, slow and hypnotic. She stepped onto the ice. The closer she got, the warmer the air felt, until she could almost believe it was spring. Her breaths came faster, mist curling in front of her. The glow swelled, the hum deepened, and for a moment she could hear words in it. Not in English, not in any language she knew, but heavy with meaning. Come. She was 20 feet away when the ice beneath her gave a low groan. She stopped. The glow was just below now, so close she could see shapes in it, soft, shifting outlines, like long fingers moving through water. A sharp crack split the ice under her feet. She should have run, but she didn't. She stayed rooted, staring down into the light. It felt like looking into a memory she'd forgotten, something warm and safe. Another crack, and a thin stream of water surged up around her boots. The hum swelled into a sound like a chorus. Then, hands grabbed her from behind, yanking her backward. She gasped, the spell breaking, and found herself face to face with Hal. His breath was ragged, his eyes wide with something between terror and fury. "Don't you ever answer it!" he shouted over the sound. They stumbled back together until they reached thicker ice. The glow began to fade, slipping deeper until it was gone. The hum quieted. Back at the house, Hal sank into his chair, coughing hard. "You don't understand," he said finally. "If you answer it once, you'll never stop hearing it." That night, Erin lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house was silent except for her father's labored breathing in the other room. She told herself it was over, that she was safe. But somewhere deep beneath the ice, faint and patient, the hum began again.